Okay, so here we are. We have finally gotten a stadium into our hot little hands, and we are aghast, we are agog, we are amazed. Fill in the word of your choice. For those of you who are overwhelmed by all the knobs and buttons, I can't be sure, because I came to Stadium XL already knowing Helix very well. I've used it for just under 10 years now, and now I think, from what I can tell so far, that this is a much easier interface. So if you're starting from scratch, I think it's going to be easier. If you're coming from Helix, I always recommend reading the manual first, but you know what? Do not bother. As I am recording this, I have not read one shred of one page of the manual. I'm normally a guy who does that, but this time I don't think you need to. I don't like putting it on my desk. I like it on the floor, but it is so easy to actually program right here on the faceplate that you're going to want to put it on the desk, put it on the floor for final tweaks, maybe hook up the Stadium app. But let's dive in here. I want to show you real quick how you can very quickly get to where you want to be with the sound of your amp and your cabinet, because that's really going to be really critical. So I'm going to go to a middle block, anywhere in the middle, and I'm going to click on amp here. It defaults to showing you pictures of all of these amps. I like the list better, but I've left it on the pictures so that you can see what I'm doing a little bit better. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm actually going to, I don't want to use the Princess or the Deluxe or the Twin or anything, but I'm going to go with the Tweed Man today. Because this is an amp that has jumped channels, and I want to show you some of the good stuff that you can do here. All right, so now that I've added that, if I go out to the main, I can now see I have an amp and a cab. Gone are the days where you have an amp and a cab in one block. You don't even have that option anymore. I always put 2 spaces between these 2 things. This is the first thing I do. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is right here, I always want the LA Studio Comp. I want you to notice something. If you haven't changed your defaults, you'll notice that it immediately placed that onto one of my foot switches. Most of the things I put in here, that's the way I want it. This one I'm not. So I'm just going to touch this and hold it. I am going to clear stomp, and now it's always on. I actually use this at defaults most of the time. I will mess with peak reduction and gain a little bit later on. Mix, sometimes I raise the mix. I just use my ears for that, but it's real close to the defaults every time. This is my favorite compressor in Helix because it sounds like you're in a studio and you've just used their wonderful expensive gear to smooth out the highs and the lows. Other thing I always want on every single preset is a volume pedal. Hit volume, and there's my, well, nope, I don't need stereo. My mono volume pedal. This little light comes on. I don't know if you notice it. It looks like it's a floppy disk icon. It's hilarious because there's a whole lot of you that have never used a computer with a floppy disk, but we still use that to show save. I hit that a couple times to save. You can actually give it a name, and I'm going to actually give this a name, save as new. You need to come up with a naming convention that makes sense. Don't just be cute with this. In this particular case, this is going to be for a Strat. So I put an S in. Then I put a space. This is the Bassman amp. So I put in BM for Bassman. And then I put a space, and if I know I'm going to use a particular modulation on this or something different, I might put something else. But right now, that's what I'm going to just put in there. So I'm just saving it there. All right, so now I have my amp and my cab. The other thing that I always put in, always put in, is a wah pedal. You can pick your favorite. I like the Chrome Custom. I like it at defaults usually and at 80% mix. If I hit save, I'm done. Now, one thing that's really cool, this is everything that you need to have a volume control on your amp and a wah with your pedal. So blue is volume, purple is wah. And it's all set up automatically unless you've changed your defaults. And if you're the kind of person that changes your defaults, you're not even watching my video. I want to show you a few things about these amps. I have heard some people say that you should actually set this up and then use focus view to actually tweak it. Don't do it. That's not the way it works. I promise you that won't work well. I tell you what will work well is go to focus view first and then just start dragging this around. I hope that you can see this, but all of these parameters are changing as I drag this around. So let's say that I find that I'm really close when I get somewhere around here. Let's say it's right here. So now I'm jumped, I've got both channels, I've got my drives, I've got my bass, my middle, my treble, and everything like that. I'm done with focus view. I'm going to get out of here, and I'm going to tweak these to make it perfect. Now, I will, as I'm playing, and I'm not doing any sound samples so that you can concentrate on how this actually works. I'm playing, I'm going to, get just to the right bass as I'm playing. I might put a looper in here and play a loop. I'll get the mid right, and I'll get the treble, and I'll get the presence, and then I'll find out that I want way less normal, and I want more bright, or something like that. Okay? Over here we have master, stock, sag, ripple, pre-post, and hype. We'll wait on hype. I'll talk about hype at the end. So what I want to do now is I want two sounds out of this amp. I want a normal sort of edge of breakup sound, which is maybe what it is right now, and I want something better. So I'm going to go in here to whichever drive I want, and I'm going to do the normal drive. I usually like to boost the normal drive to get my dirty sound. This is great. See, if you hit learn controller, I'm going to hit this button. So I'm going to make this foot switch right here. Foot switch number, 9. It's going to control the drive. When I push this, the screen brings up the everything I need. It even explains to me what that parameter does. I want the minimum to be right where it's set right now. So the minimum's at 3.3. I might be playing my guitar. I might play with this. I might find out, I like it really, I love it when it's at 7.3. I'll set that to the max. Now, I've got this foot switch is going to switch between those two settings. You can sort of see it right down here. When you got it up here, you can see it a little bit bigger. I hit the save button a couple times to make sure that it's saving. Now, I might also want to change some of these other parameters, but I'm not going to do that right now because I want to take it as something that people never think about that is the most important place to do the final finessing of your sound, and that is right here in the cab block. I normally like to make 2 cabs and mix microphones, but I'm not going to get that. I'm not going to get that fancy for this. I'm just going to show you what you can do with this cab. And there's a lot of people that think that they can only get the best sound if they get just the right IR. Well, I think that just the right IR is probably inside this box already, and you just have to get to it by using these controls, which is easier than going through mountains of files. So here's all my controls for my cabinet. There's also a delay that's on page 2. First thing I'm going to do, I'm not going to touch anything except I always set my low cut to just about the same thing, usually 90. That's where I usually like it. I almost always like my high cut at about 9. All right? I know I want them there. I'm going to set them there. First thing I want you to do is I want you to experiment with these mics. As you're listening to your sound, find the mic that is the closest. It won't be perfect. Find it as the closest to the sound that you have in your head. Let's say it's the 160 ribbon. For me, it often is. I like the ribbon mics the best. I like the 160. I like the 4038, although you got to crank up the distance on that one. And I like the 84. Let's go with the 160. As you're playing, you want to get something a little bit different. You want to do a couple things. You want to change the position. I always do this first. I love the order this is in because this is the order that I mess with it. I change the position. Ooh, that's pretty good. But what happens if I change the distance? You will find that when it's close, it's darker. When it's further away, it's brighter. And sometimes it gets louder when it gets further away. That's just the way they work. So let's say you're right about there. Finally, I might try the angle. I'll go from 0 to 45. 45 might take the edge off, might be more than you want to do. But you really want to mess with these cabinet controls. So for instance, one that I like a whole lot is the Grammatico. And I might go with the Grammatico even with one of the other amps. That's it. Now, I bet you that sound won't sound terrible when I plug a guitar in and make noise with it. But I'm not going to bother doing clips today. Look, I'm just trying to help you folks out. If you don't want to like and if you don't want to subscribe, I really don't care. It's just fine with me. I hope that you're getting a whole lot out of Helix, and I hope that those of us who have time to dig into it more here at the beginning will be able to help you out. I want to show you one more thing before we leave. I never like to leave this color blank for this drive for my amp. It is so easy to do this, and this is something that is easier to do on the unit. It was with Helix too, than I think it was to do in the software. But in this particular case, if I touch and hold this, there's something called label and color. I want that red because that's the color of an amp, and I want to remember that that's what I'm doing. I want it all caps, and I say drive. I hit done. I go back to the main. Now I've got my foot switch, the color that I want it, and I have it saying what I want it to say. Hey, dig in, try a few things, leave a few tips for somebody else, get active in the forums, but mostly get out there and play some music. Bye-bye.